Hello friends, how are you all? Today we are going to watch a movie that shows what can be done if you have confidence. This movie is based on the story of the most cunning and intelligent thief in American history. The name of this movie is Catch Me If You Can, which was released in 2002 and its IMDb rating is 8.1. The total cost of making this movie was 5 crore 20 lakh US dollars, and the total income of this movie was 35 crore 21 lakh US dollars. The story of this movie starts from the incident of 1979, where it is seen that there is an American FBI agent named Carl standing in front of a jail in France. And Carl has come here to meet an American prisoner named Frank Abagnale Jr. after entering the jail. When Carl was talking to Frank suddenly became very unwell, so he was taken out of the cell to see a doctor. Now, after taking Frank out, when Clark and the rest of the police in the jail had become a little different, Frank tries to escape from there. But he can't run too far to keep his body weak. And after going a little far, Clark comes and catches him again. And the whole incident from here goes back to the flashback of 4 years ago, where it is seen that Frank is 15 years old and he is at a club party with his entire family, where his father is being honored with an award. Frank's family had a total of 3 members, his father, mother, and he. And this small family of the 3 of them was very good. They were all very happy. But then it is known that Frank's father has lost a lot of money in business. And for that, his father has to take a loan from the bank. But the bank doesn't want to give him any kind of loan, so they have to sell their own house. And now they all start living in a small house. A few days after this incident, Frank's birthday comes, and now he is 16 years old. For that, his father opens a bank account in another name, and he collects $25 there. And then on his birthday, he gives him the checkbook and says, "This is yours now, you can do whatever you want with it." And here, for the first time in his life, Frank takes the checkbook in his hand, and he likes that checkbook very much. And on the other hand, to change their house, Frank had to change his own school. And here, he left his private school and joined a public school. But unfortunately, he wears his old school uniform and goes to this public school. And when Frank wears his uniform and enters the new school class, then all the other students think of him as a teacher. And Frank uses this opportunity. With a lot of confidence, he starts taking the class of his peers. But after a few days, the principal of the school can know about this incident. And he sees Frank's parents and nullifies this matter. But even after knowing this, Frank's father does not give much importance to this matter, because Frank and his father were like friends among themselves, and they loved each other very much. Now, after a few days of this incident, when Frank returns home from school, then he finds out that his father and mother are getting divorced, and he wants to know that his father wants to live with his mother. But for this incident, Frank gets very confused, and he runs away from there. After running away from there, Frank starts living in a hotel for a few days. And because he had no money, he was using his own checkbook to pay the hotel bill. Now, 2 weeks later, the hotel owner finds out the amount of money in his account was not enough, so the checks he gave were bouncing. And that's why he has to be kicked out of the hotel. Now Frank really likes the process of paying the bill with the check and withdrawing money from the bank. Because at that time, no bank was computerized, so it took more than 2 weeks to know the details of the account from one bank to another. And Frank wanted to use this opportunity. He tries to withdraw money from the bank with the help of the code numbers of the check he has. But no bank is willing to give money to a stranger. So Frank's idea is not very successful. Now one day Frank sees a pilot on the road, and he realizes that everyone respects that pilot. Everyone is trying to get his autograph. Actually, at that time, a pilot's respect was like a celebrity. And seeing this, Frank decides to hire a fake pilot to cash his checks. That's why he goes to a big airline called Pan Am. And after going there, he introduces himself as an editor of a student magazine. And he fixes his appointment with a senior pilot there. Now, during the interview with the pilot, Frank tells him about the pilot and explains all the details. Then he puts on a pilot's uniform and goes straight to the bank to cash his fake checks. Since Frank had a fake pilot in the bank manager himself comes and gives him the money. Then Frank creates a fake payroll check based on the name of Pan Am Company. And with the help of them, he starts withdrawing a lot of money. Frank always opens accounts in different banks. And he takes the checks from the bank and changes the numbers below them, so that the check goes to the wrong branch of the bank, and Frank gets a lot of time for that. And during that time, Frank runs away from there with the money. When Frank goes to withdraw money from the bank, he puts on his pilot's uniform. Now one day when Frank goes to withdraw money from the bank, he finds out that all the pilots of Pan Am Company can withdraw their money from the airport. So there is no need to come to the bank. Frank talks to everyone with so much confidence that no one could understand him. He is not a pilot. He is just a 16-year-old kid. Now when Frank arrives at the airport to withdraw the check, a receptionist asks him, "Are you the pilot who is going to Miami?" And Frank replies, Yes, I am." And then Frank sits behind the cabin of a plane pilot and goes to Miami for free. And once he flies a plane for free, Frank likes this very much. And then in the same process, he flies a plane and travels around the world. And after going to different countries of the world, he starts withdrawing money with the help of the fake payroll check of Pan Am Company. Now Frank has withdrawn so much money with that fake check that this case has now gone to the FBI. And the main suspect in this case is Carl's, who was seen in the beginning of the movie. Now to follow the fake check, Carl goes to the hotel where Frank is staying. And slowly entering Frank's room, Carl wakes up screaming, "Come out, I'm FBI." Frank was in the bathroom at that time. He came out of there with a lot of confidence and said to Carl, "You are very late. I'm coming from the special force. And I caught that check for Ashami a little while ago." After hearing this, Carl wants to see his ID, and Frank gives him his own wallet. Frank was so confident that he didn't even open Carl's wallet. Now Frank wants to see his ID with him, and Carl lets him see it. Now Frank tells him, "I'm going to put these typewriters and fake checks in the car, and you stay in this room until then. I don't want any waiter from this hotel to come and touch these things." Now after leaving Frank's room, Carl opens his ID. And when Carl opens his wallet, he is completely shocked. There was no ID in that wallet, just a few pieces of paper and a sticker. Seeing this, he realized that he had been fooled. And that's when Frank ran away from there. Now Carl can investigate and find out that Frank was a kid, and he is not yet 18 years old. So Carl has to look for this with his whole team. That in the past few months, how many children have run away from New York City? And in this search, Carl reaches Frank's mother. Frank's mother is now newly married and having a separate family. Speaking to Frank's mother, Carl can see a picture of Frank there. And seeing that picture, Carl can fully recognize Frank. Now after a few days of this incident, Frank goes to the hospital for a need. There he meets a girl named Brenda, and that girl likes him very much. Now Frank will change his pilot's profession and become a doctor. That's why he gets a fake certificate from Harvard College. And he becomes a senior surgeon in this nursing home. Now after Frank joins there, a patient of an emergency accident is admitted there. Then Frank goes to see the patient with his 2 junior doctors. But after seeing the patient, Frank could not understand what to do. So he asks the junior doctors, "What do you think? What should we do now?" Hearing this, he felt that Frank was testing them in some way. Then the 2 doctors confidently answer Frank. Hearing this, Frank says, "I don't need to stay here. You 2 can handle this matter." And saying this, he goes out of there. And on the other hand, Frank and Brenda have a love affair, and they want to get married. That's why Frank talks to Brenda's father about this marriage. And when he talks to Brenda's father, he knows that his father is a very famous lawyer. When he talks to his father, Frank says a lot of lies, but his father can understand them. If later Frank tells all the truth to his father, and seeing Frank's honesty and confidence, his father agrees to this marriage. And on the other hand, while looking for Frank, Carl has reached his father. But his father does not want to give his son's news to Carl. Then Carl sees a letter written by Frank there. And after writing the address from the back of the letter, Carl goes to look for Frank there. But when he goes there, Frank is not there. There is just a fake doctor's certificate. Now on Christmas Day, Frank calls Carl. And he knows that he wants to surrender now. But Carl does not agree to this. He knows that he will catch you in a few days. Now that Frank knew Carl was getting married, so to show this to Carl's whole team, in the last 2 months, there have been so many wedding ads in the paper. Now by arranging from there, Carl arrives there on Frank's wedding day. And seeing Carl from a distance, Frank runs away from there. And before running away from there, he knows Brenda. Exactly 2 days from today, he meets Frank at the Miami airport. Now 2 days later, to bring Brenda, when Frank arrives at the airport, then he can see from a distance FBI agents have been left at the airport. That's why he ran away from there. Carl tightens all the security at the airport, so that Frank can't escape from there in any way. On the other hand, Frank has another idea. He wears his pilot's uniform and goes to a girls' college. And when he goes there, he comes from Pan Am Airlines. And from this college, he will choose a total of 8 girls, who will be made air hostesses from Pan Am in the future. Now he takes those girls to the airport from the college in the name of training. And after entering the airport, Frank hides in the middle of those 8 girls. Now when they were entering the airport, the police and FBI agents there were looking at those beautiful girls. That's why Frank hides in the middle of those girls and easily gets into the airport. And after escaping from there, Frank comes to France. For so many days, he made fake checks by hand. But now he is using a machine to make checks. And for that reason, now it is impossible to understand which one is real and which one is fake by looking at the fake checks. Now the FBI gets the news that Frank has started making fake checks again. Now Carl tests those fake checks made by Frank from the experts. And from there, Carl learns that Frank's checks are made by machine. That's why they are so perfect. And the machines used to make checks are in European countries, France, Germany, and England. And after hearing this, Carl remembers that Frank's mother lived in a small village in France. Now to catch Frank, Carl goes to the village in France. And there he finds Frank. When Carl gets out after arresting him, the French police takes him to their custody. Now the whole incident that was going on in the flashback for so long comes to the present again. Now it is seen that Carl is taking Frank from the jail by plane to America. And while coming to the plane, Carl tells him that Frank's father is no longer alive. He died in an accident. After knowing this, Frank's condition gets very bad, and he enters the bathroom of the plane and starts crying. Now it is seen that it has been a long time, but Frank has not yet come out of the bathroom, and it is time for the plane to land on this side. After making a lot of noise from the outside, Frank cannot get any answer from the inside. That's why Carl breaks the door of the bathroom and goes inside. And after entering inside, it is seen that Frank is not there. He opened the screw in the bathroom basin and ran away from there. And after landing the plane, along with being a little slow, he gets out of that plane and runs away from that airport. And after running away from there, he comes to meet his mother. But after coming there, it is seen that his mother is newly married, and he also has a child. When Frank was looking at these from the outside of the house, then Carl goes there to arrest him. Now even after seeing Carl from behind, he does not try to escape. He is now very lonely in a human way. His father is dead, and his mother has now started a new family. Now after killing Frank, he is sent to jail for all the crimes and for 12 years. Now while Frank is in jail, Carl comes to meet him one day, and he knows Frank everywhere. Now he is going towards a new check fraud. And after hearing this, Frank wants to see that check from him. And along with seeing that check sitting in that place, he gives all the information about that check to Carl. And after seeing this, Carl is very impressed with Frank. And from this point of view, Carl starts taking information about this fake check from Frank from time to time. Seeing Frank's knowledge about the check, Carl applies to the government. so that he forgives all his other crimes, he has to join the FBI's check fraud department. And from this point of view, Frank starts working in the FBI's check fraud department. But he didn't like it here either. That's why one day he goes to the airport in a pilot's uniform, and Carl follows him. Carl tells him, "I didn't come to arrest you today. I know that from today you will come to the office again." And 2 days later, Frank comes to the office from his office. And along with this whole movie, Carl had asked Frank a question many times, but Frank didn't answer even once. And now that the movie is over, Carl asks Frank the same question again. And that is, how did you pass Luciana's entrance exam? It's a lawyer's entrance exam, which is very difficult. Carl asks him, did you cheat? Or did someone else test you? Then Frank tells him he studied for only 2 weeks and passed this exam. And hearing this from Frank, it is clear that he was very intelligent with the smartwatch. And this is where the story of this movie ends. Lastly, it should be noted that Frank got married at the age of 26, and he had 3 sons. And Carl and Frank together solved many of America's check fraud cases and saved a lot of money from the government. So I'm ending this video here today. Let me know how you liked the video in the comment box. If you like it, and if you don't like it, dislike it. And if you want to get more videos like this, you can subscribe to this channel.